welcome. Today we are joined by two super talented women, those who have made India proud, in fact, made India shine a little more brighter when it comes to world cinema. And every Indian, trust me, every individual is thankful to Guneet Monga and Kartiki Gonsalves. Thank you, ladies, for giving us time. And before we begin with our interview, my virtual hug to you for making India shine. Kartiki, you have directed such a wonderful movie. I mean, I cannot express in words how much patience it must have required to you to shoot the entire documentary. So we'll begin with our interview. First and foremost, Guneet and Kartiki, I would like to know, how did it all start? The inception, the very idea to go for the Elephant Whisperers.
I think it started with Kartiki, so I'll have Kartiki answer this.
It all began when I was driving on my way from Bangalore in India to shift back to my hometown in Ooty, and that's when I really came across Raghu. You had this tiny baby elephant walking along the side of the road, and he was holding onto Bowman's arm. And I leaned out of the car and I saw this tiny little elephant, and I just wanted to be closer to it and to also just experience what a young calf was like. And that's when Bowman, he sort of beckoned to me, and I pulled my car over, I jumped out, and I went and joined them. We went down to the river, and Raghu just ran into the water full speed, and I got in and started scrubbing him and got to spend a lot of time with them. And that's when I really noticed that Bowman and Raghu had this very special bond. It was something that I'd never experienced before, because you had this tiny little vulnerable wild elephant calf, and you had this human, and they had this unspoken of bond, and I wanted to explore that. But a lot during that time, that also made me question about why a wild animal was with a human being. And that just brought to highlight the current situation of the Asian elephant. There are just 35,000 to 40,000 of them left. And Raghu was a direct example of climate change, where his mother had wandered into a nearby village in search of food and water, and she got electrocuted and died. And that sort of just really wanted me to help elephants in a much larger way. I wanted people to understand these animals that we live alongside with, to help coexistence on a much larger, in a much larger space. And I really wanted to get people to connect with elephants through Raghu, to be able to see how intelligent they are, how beautiful and emotionally connected they are, and get people to help protect the landscape, and also in turn protect the species. And you had this beautiful family dynamic right in front of me. That's something that I wanted to highlight. And Bowman and Belly come from a Kartinakan community, and I wanted to really showcase this beautiful ancient tribal community that comes from the heart of South India. And there's so much that we can learn from them on living off the land and respect for land and other living beings that they share their spaces with. So it just all came together very organically. It started out as a very personal bond that slowly, gradually turned into what it is now. And that's very special today that we just won the Oscar, and it's extremely special. Guneet and me are just extremely overjoyed with everything that's been happening. And it's been, over the last couple of months, we just had a whirlwind of a ride, and we're just settling down now and coming back to reality.
Absolutely. In fact, honestly, Kartiki, now Raghu and Amu will be in our heart forever. So this has really made that imprint in every Indian heart, that now we know that Raghu and Amu will be living with us forever. Guneet, how about you? You know, I was going through a lot of interviews and a lot of reports. Kartiki was with the movie for 5 years, if I'm not wrong, and you were there for 3.5 years. How was your journey with him?
So I was overjoyed when Kartiki brought the project to me, because it was adorable baby elephants and Kartiki's purest vision. And as a producer, I feel, being producing films for 15 years, I feel like it is my mission now to be more and more available with my company, with my resources and knowledge, to more female filmmakers. I've been very vocal about that, and I could not be more excited when Kartiki reached out, and she had a pitch trailer. The visuals were stunning. And I think we've gone from strength to strength. Netflix joined the team, and with Netflix, it's like putting a hoarding on the moon. There is global audiences, the kind of fan art we've gotten. We released on 8th of December and we were shortlisted in 2 weeks, and then we were nominated in a month, and then a month later we won. It's been action-packed, and our time of making the film has, it's been, I went out on shoot during the wedding of Bowman and Belly. So it was really nice. I got to learn so much, because here is this, amazing filmmaker of mine, which comes from natural history photography. So she knows a lot more about wildlife, and it was my first time leaning into it and bringing, whatever knowledge I know about the business of filmmaking and filmmaking and awards and the whirlwind around. But yeah, I got to learn a lot, and I got to experience wildlife, and I got to be with the elephants, and with the amazing Woman and Belly, and learn from their knowledge. So it's been an amazing journey.
Right. In fact, I was just noticing the both of your frame. It is so wonderful. I mean, this should be your DP. In fact, people will be so happy to, get reminded of Oscar all the time. Well, while we speak about the movie, Kartiki and Guneet, the movie would have certainly required a lot of patience, lot of wait. It is so wonderfully depicted, the beautiful bond between an animal and human being, especially when it comes to Bowman and Billy. They are so selfless. In fact, they are just utilizing what is only required for their survival, nothing more than that. What was the OMG moment in the entire documentary? I'm sure something must be really, really, it must be like very shocking to you as well. Oh my God, we have captured this shot. We have got this shot. How about that journey?
I think the entire journey is just special. I think being day in, day out and watching a tiny elephant calf grow from the age of 3 months to 6 years right now has just been a phenomenal journey. And not just with Raghu, but with Amu as well. I think just watching the family dynamics, everything was special in the journey. I don't think I could really pull out anything, because it was such an experience. I mean, going back, it's a place that I call home. I grew up in the Nilgiris, and this comes from the very heart of it. It's a beautiful forest just below the Nilgiris. So in many ways, it's an ode to the place I grew up in, and this beautiful community that lives there. I do have to say that sometimes when you go out and you're shooting something as unpredictable as nature, you never know what you're going to get. And that just comes around to it being that sometimes you can go out with the idea that you want to film elephants, and it could be that you don't see any elephants. You're not in control of anything that really happens. And I would say that every moment that we had with the wild elephants as well was very special. Anything that really contributed, everything that happened in the day in and day out life of Bowman and Belly was just very special. I think it was so beautiful of them to open their hearts up and trust us with their story and tell the world about their very personal moments. I mean, getting to be a part of their wedding and to watch all their hardships and all the success that they had with raising these elephant calves. It's like getting into the heart of someone's life. And I think that's, it was just built over time with this beautiful trust, and today their family. It's just been a beautiful journey in that sense. Every moment was very special. So that's a very hard question for me, but there are definitely moments that stood out. For instance, when Belly asked Amu to lie down, and that was such a spontaneous moment. And these are things that you can't really go in with the idea that you're going to get. These are the treats that come on board just out of the blue. It's just about being present, being there, and being able to document everything on ground all the time. And you get surprises. You get beautiful things just happen out of the blue. You have no control over it, and that's what's beautiful.
Guneet, you want to add up something? Because, the entire journey is so special. They are not trained actors. They are not even being trained. It is just whatever you capture is something very special. Anything you want to add up to that?
Yeah, over 5-6 years of documenting the journey that Kartiki's been on, we had 450 hours of footage, and what you see is a 40-minute film. We could not predict or know that Raghu would get taken away, or Baman and Belly would actually decide to get married. So there is just so many special things, there is a beautiful love story of Baman and Belly in our film. And that kind of unfolded and made it so real and grounded. And we're so grateful to be able to be observers and fly on walls in their lives, and to be able to see years with them, to be able to see weathers change, their needs change, their relationship evolve. The whole thing has been really special.
Right. And in fact, what were the odds, the audios you faced while documenting this? I'm sure there must be many, but something for our viewers that even they can get a knowledge about how difficult it is to depict such beautiful relation on screen.
Well, as Guneet mentioned, we started back in 2017 and wrapped up in 2022. So we basically had 450 hours of footage. And I think, well, a lot of documentaries really come from the past in some way or archival. This was a documentary that was very much in the present. It was hard to not get emotionally invested into many things that were happening on the ground, because we need to remember at the end of the day, we're merely spectators. For instance, I'll just give you an example. When Raghu was taken away, our entire crew was in tears because it's something that we had no control of and it was happening. And sometimes we just need to understand that this was something that was good for Raghu as an elephant and would help him throughout his life. But at that moment, it was heartbreaking to see this young calf being taken away from his parents. And it's something that you can't do anything about, but we still had to stand up, be strong, and just document it. I think that must have been one of the hardest things that happened. Of course, during the duration of the documentary, many elephant calves died. It wasn't a movie that we were making. It was life happening. And it was the brutal reality of what's happening right in that situation at that point in time. So sometimes you just have to be a spectator. So that I would say is definitely one of the challenges, and definitely in extreme and close up encounters with wild animals. And we were day in and day out within the natural reserve. So there were moments that we were in the camp, and there were days where we just went out into the forest. We were immersed in the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, which is teeming with wildlife. We had tigers and leopards and bears and Indian gaur and dholes. And we were working late hours, and you just have to be on guard the entire time. And at the end of the day, you're still working with elephants, and they're unpredictable. So just that sense. And alongside with that, we also had we were working with natural light. That's one of the most important things. It shows the beauty of the natural world, but it's also very challenging with the contrast between sunlight and shade. And we also needed to be very mindful that we were shooting with elephants. When you film with elephants, you cannot have bright lights shining into their eyes, and you just need to really keep in mind that you're not to harm the subjects that you're working with. So we took an ethical stand to really help that process. And one other reason why I decided to go to natural light, I think it's absolutely beautiful. Coming from a natural history background, I love natural light. It showcases our world in a very beautiful way. And we would head out early in the morning, late evenings to basically capture in the best lighting possible. And we wanted to also really showcase Bowman and Belly's life in the way that they live it. We didn't want to go in and present this overly lit up place. And because they live in a tiny little village, and we wanted to showcase that they still use candlelight. So we never really brought in all the external lighting for that. And I think, I think that's basically when it comes to the struggles. I think that it was just a beautiful journey, and every documentary or film has its own obstacles, and it's about how you deal with it and what type of ethical stand that you take. And it's challenging being a live documentary. You just have to follow the story and see where it goes, and you have to be okay with not knowing where it's going to go.
Well, there